Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports That back into the video today, and today I'm going to be talking about the Houston Texans potentially signing four-time Pro Bowler Dalvin Cook. I'm excited to talk about this signing. I don't think this will happen, but it would be interesting to talk about. So, Dalvin Cook, who is a four-time Pro Bowler, was with Baltimore and New York last year, playing 15 games. Cook did not play at all in the regular season for Baltimore last year, but he made himself available in the postseason for one game for Baltimore, which was the AFC Championship game, where he had eight. Well, the game he played was actually against the Texans. The only game in the postseason he played was against the Texans, and he had 8 carries for 23 rushing yards and 1 first down. Then with the Jets, 15 games, 1 start, 67 rush attempts, 214 rushing yards, this was his worst season ever. His worst season before that was in 2017 with Minnesota, which he had 354 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, and he also had 11 receptions for 90 receiving yards, where he only played in 4 games. So he pulled off those stats, almost 400 rushing yards in only 4 games. He would have gone well over 1,000 rushing yards and maybe gone over 400 to 500 receiving yards if he stays healthy in the 2017 season. So it's not like he got those numbers, but was played every game. I mean, he got nearly 400 rushing yards in 4 games. So he just wasn't available. And then outside the 2018 season, played 11 games, 10 starts, had 615 rushing yards. And then every season outside of the 2023 season, after that 2018 season, is an 1,000-yard rushing season. Now, the reason I want to talk about the Dalvin Cook potentially signing with the Texans, it hasn't really been talked about anywhere, I think. But I wanted to talk about it because I heard and read that Dalvin Cook is currently living in Houston and would take any opportunity to potentially sign with the team. Just looking for the right place to sign with the team. So, yeah. Now, Dalvin Cook obviously wouldn't come into Houston being the starter. The Texans traded for Joe Mixon. But to be honest with all of you guys, I'm not trustworthy, and I don't trust Dameon Pierce as the backup running back for the Texans. I just think for the Texans, Dameon Pierce, it's not like he was a early draft pick. He wasn't a first or second round pick. I really think you can move on from him at the aspect of being a running back. I love having Dameon Pierce with the Texans, potentially using him as a kickoff returner. I thought at the end of the season, after the Texans really realized that, okay, him at running back is not working. We have a guy who's producing in Devin Singletary. We're going to start using him at the as a kickoff returner. I think whoever came up with that idea was brilliant. I probably think it was D'Amico Ryans, but that's just my guess. But basically, we started to see less of Dameon Pierce at running back, and he became the Texans' kickoff returner. And he had an amazing kickoff return, which was one of the best plays of the season for the Texans. And also, I want to remind everybody that I know rules have changed now, and things things might be different next year. But it's hard to go all the way on a kickoff return. It's hard. It's harder than it was before. Now it might be easier this upcoming season with the rule change. But it was an amazing kickoff return by Dameon Pierce. Was one of the only impactful scores of the day into Cleveland Browns in that Christmas Eve game where the Texans lost to the Browns without C.J. Stroud. So, I just think that Dameon Pierce, loved the idea of having him as your kickoff return next year, but that's all I want to see of him. I just don't trust him as a backup running back. Let's say Joe Mixon gets hurt or something happens with Joe Mixon. I don't trust Dameon Pierce as the starting running back. I think the Texans, with the moves we've seen them make, Joe Mixon, Danielle Hunter, Stephon Diggs, all the other additions they've made, and they still, I believe, have about $20 million left in cap space after the Diggs trade. So they're not done. I think they might pick up another potential nice addition. I could see them looking at a potential safety. And they also have, a second-round draft pick in this draft and other draft picks. They have a lot of draft picks in this upcoming draft, which is 3 weeks away. So, I think that the Texans definitely have a lot of potential, more room to add in more talent to this team, whether the draft or more cap space. So, yeah. But, I mean, God forbid for something to happen to Joe Mixon, say he's not available in a game, or he's hurt long term, or, God, I mean, something happens. I mean, anything happens where he's not available to be on the football field. This Texans team is trying to contend. I think they're trying to be the biggest threat to the defending back-to-back champions Kansas City Chiefs. I don't see the Texans as much of a threat to the Kansas City Chiefs with Dameon Pierce as their backup running back. Now, I think with Dalvin Cook as your backup running back, there's more of a threat. Now, if some of you are thinking the backup running back position is not important because, Joe Mixon's going to be getting a lot of the carries for the Houston Texans. If Joe Mixon gets hurt, let's say Joe Mixon gets hurt week 15. He's out 6 weeks. You're losing him in the playoffs. No more Joe Mixon. So the Texans get to the, let's say the Texans have won a division. They're the 2 seed in the AFC with how good they're playing. And that leads them to, the wild card. They win the wild card. They win the divisional round for the first time in their history as a franchise, and then they meet up with the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship. I'm just throwing it for instance. They meet up with the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, or in the divisional round, or the wild card, wherever the Texans meet the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are the biggest threat. Even last year they showed. I mean, even as the 3rd seed last year, they showed. They're the biggest threat, no matter what. I don't care what seed the Kansas City Chiefs are. I believe they're the biggest threat. I don't care if they don't win the AFC. If they don't win the AFC West, I still think they're the biggest threat in the AFC. And I'm not, I'm not a huge Kansas City Chiefs guy. I don't like the Kansas City Chiefs at all. But if you match up against the Chiefs in the playoffs and you want to be that team to take them down and you want to win a Super Bowl, which I think is the goal for everybody, and it's crazy to have a rookie quarterback, or at that time would be a second-year quarterback, and the goal is Super Bowl, which we saw someone who plays just like C.J. Stroud, Joe Burrow, make it to Super Bowl in his second year. I really think that if Joe Mixon gets hurt, you're stuck with Dameon Pierce as your backup, or your starting running back, which he would be if Joe Mixon gets hurt in the playoffs or against the Chiefs. I don't think it really matters who you play in the playoffs. If you're stuck with Dameon Pierce as your starting running back, your chances are down. Even though having a monster wide receiver core with Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell and Nico Collins, you still need to be able to grow the run game, and I don't see the Texans really being able to get that running game active with Dameon Pierce as the running back. So it'd be great to have a backup running back who we can trust in Dalvin Cook. Now, the question is Dalvin Cook okay coming into Houston, being that backup running back, being basically what he was with New York in 2023, where he had to step behind Breece Hall and basically just watch him do all the work. Now, I don't think it'd be like that with New York, because I feel like I don't feel like with the Texans, if the Texans signed Dalvin Cook, it'd be like it was with New York, because compare Breece Hall and Joe Mixon. Breece Hall is a lot younger. You can use him a lot more, and he's a lot better of a running back than Joe Mixon is. So I think the Texans might be a little bit more willing to go to their backup running back if it was Dalvin Cook than the New York Jets were last season, going to Dalvin Cook. So I think that's another thing. But also, the Texans might not pass the ball as much as the New York Jets did last year. We saw the Jets run the football a lot last year. The Texans might not do that, especially with Dalvin Cook. So I think Dalvin Cook, his best position, his best situation probably would go to a team like the Dallas Cowboys, where they need a starting running back. And I think he does sign with the Texas team, but I don't see it being the Texans. I probably see it being the Dallas Cowboys, where he ends up. But I thought it'd be interesting to talk about him potentially joining the Texans, just because the fact that he's living in Houston right now. The Texans could use a backup running back as well, knowing that Dameon Pierce is the backup running back. I just like to turn him into the kickoff returner and not him being the backup running back and the kickoff returner. Honestly, I think the Texans should just put his running back days behind them and sign a trustworthy backup running back to back up Joe Mixon. Look, if you look at it with Cincinnati, Cincinnati had in the last couple seasons with Cincinnati. Cincinnati had a trustworthy running back to go to alongside Joe Mixon. 2022 and 2021, it was Samaje Perine, who was a really nice backup running back next to Joe Mixon, and I can't remember Cincinnati's backup running back last year, but they had a really nice backup running back last year. So, honestly, I think that, I think it might not be bad to get yourself a decent backup running back. Let me know your thoughts on the potential signing in the comment section, and peace out. Go Texans.